was designed to accommodate 378 children. The smallest babies class had room for 20 children, and the largest mixed school class had room for 65. The children all sat in rows in specially designed desks. There was a space at the front for the slate, as well as a hole for the china inkwell. The principal architect was Robert Bignell, and the builder was Sam Sherwin, both of Wide Bargate, Boston. The cost of all the materials and labour was £2,917, 7 shillings and 8 pence. The foundation stone was laid on November the 28th, 1895, and can still be seen today, although it has been gradually worn down by the wind and rain. No one is quite sure when it was officially completed, and the only reference made in the logbook of the new TowerRoad school was on the 6th of July, 1896, when the premises was entered for the first time. On that day, the children were given a half-day holiday in the afternoon, and were given a special tea and games. There were 213 children present. In the beginning, the school was in 2 parts, the infants and the mixed school. The infant department was run by Mrs. Newman, who with her late husband had run the Holy Trinity National School on Spilsby Road, which closed in 1896 when TowerRoad opened. The first headmaster was Arthur Crabtree, who left in 1903 to become the Education Secretary to the new Holland County Council. The new school was built next to a foundry, which is still in use today. The architect had to follow a strict set of rules when designing the school, and it had to conform to strict regulations from the school's manual. Water closets within the main school building are not desirable and are only sanctioned for women teachers. All others should be at a short distance and completely disconnected from the school. Hat pegs should be 12 inches apart. Windows, full in the eyes of the teachers or scholars, are not approved. All playgrounds should be properly levelled, drained, enclosed with a covered area, one side against a wall. The accommodation of each room depends not merely on its area, but also on its shape, the positions of the doors and fireplaces, and its proper lighting. TowerRoad School has a very interesting history, and with the help of old documents, photographs and past pupils, we have been able to find out how the school used to be run. Every child who goes to school has to be entered into the school admission register. It records their date of entry into the school, their name and address. It also records their date of birth, their parents' name and previous school if any, and the date of leaving and where they went to. The children didn't have to wear a school uniform, but always dressed up in their Sunday best for school photographs. The logbook was a daily record kept by the head teacher, and the school's inspector also wrote his reports in it. To quote, "Visiting today, I find the infants well taught and reproduce the teaching in a bright and pleasing manner. Many children started school before they were 4. They had to work with slate and chalk to practice their writing skills. The teachers were very, very strict, and many children were punished daily. If a child was caned, his name was recorded in the punishment book. Children were caned on their hand, or for really bad offences, on their hind quarters. Children were given the cane for many reasons, such as running in school, being lazy, not paying attention, and even being tiresome. 2 children who had the cane were Aubrey Eyre and Charles Vaughan. Aubrey Eyre carved his name on his desk and received 1 stroke on each hand severely. Charles Vaughan was a very naughty boy, always getting into trouble, and was caned on 11 separate occasions. Things were certainly very different at the beginning of the century. people of Boston have always celebrated jubilees and coronations in grand fashion. The children were usually given a party and a souvenir mug, and in the early days granted a special half-day holiday. TowerRoad School is seen celebrating the coronation of King George V and Queen Mary on Thursday the 22nd of May 1911. The Parish Council of Skirbeck gave each child 3 new pennies and presented the school with the Union Jack. In the early days, boys and girls weren't taught together, and they had to have separate entrances, and there was even a wall dividing their 2 playgrounds. The girls were taught needlecraft and cooking, and the boys received lessons in woodcraft. There was no time for PE lessons. Mathematics, English and science are taught today, and the children have to follow a national curriculum which involves such things as design technology. Children still start their day with an assembly.
Quite lively usually. Can everybody see and not have a stick back?
Playtime games such as marble, skipping and conkers are still as popular as ever, and boys continue to learn their early footballing skills on the playground. TowerRoad has over the years been very successful. Schools still compete for the Woodthorpe Cup, and TowerRoad has won it on many occasions.
The Woodthorpe Cup Final, a report by Carl Mason and Simon Thirlby. On Tuesday the 7th of May, the TowerRoad football team played Boston West in the Woodthorpe Cup Final at Fishtoft. In the first half we had the wind on our side. Our midfield was a bit lacking in organisation.
In the second half we played against the wind. Boston West kept knocking the balls over the top of our defence. Boston West kept putting the pressure on and scored a vital goal to make it TowerRoad 1, Boston West 1.
The teachers have always encouraged sporting activities, and one of their most successful pupils went on to gain a cap for England schoolboys in 1913. Perhaps one day TowerRoad will produce another Horace Melson. Since 1895 there have been 6 headmasters and over 95 teachers working at the school. The longest serving teacher was a Miss Howard, who started in 1921 and retired in 1965, a total of 44 years service to the school. Male teachers were paid more and there were separate staff rooms. Many retired teachers are still living in and around Boston. The longest serving head teacher was Mr. Comer, known as Boss Comer, who was at TowerRoad for 41 years. He was awarded an MBE for his services to education. In the early days, when a schoolmistress got married, she had to resign from her post. Today there are a total of 20 full-time teachers at TowerRoad schools. Since it opened, over 3,000 children have attended the school. In the early days, children did not leave until they were 14 and either went to work, often as apprentices, or gained a scholarship for further education. The boys went to the grammar school, and until the high school was built, many of the girls went to train as pupil teachers, earning £4 a year when they first started. Over the years, TowerRoad has become very popular, and in 1976, a new school was opened by the Chairman of Governors, Mr. Ralph Jenkins. This was to accommodate the juniors, who now leave when they are 11 years old. School today is very different from when Jeff Horton was a pupil.
The TowerRoad School on the 14th, I think it was, of April 1904. I was then 3 years and 9 months old. I wasn't very old. My first teacher was a Miss Clark, and Miss Clark was Mrs. Freeston's grandmother, and she taught us what we called pothooks. Now you don't know anything about pothooks, do you? Never heard of them? No, they're something that's disappeared from school life. Well, they were hooks, just up and down and that way on, above the line, on the line, below the line. Bolted them off the blackboard onto slates. We all had slates in those days. We didn't have any paper or any pens in the early days. And this is an old baby school, infant school slate, because it's drawn with the 3 lines. Now those were what we called pothooks. Where the name came from, I don't know. But they helped us to form our letters. Miss Clark would write on the blackboard a capital A and a small a, like that, and she would do a B, 2 B's and 2 C's and so, and then we had to copy them on the slates, probably copy them 6 times in a row across the slate. In those days, everybody had to go about with a horse and trap. There was no motor cars. Some men used to come up from the country riding horseback to go to the shopping or to the offices and various places.
If Mr. Horton was at TowerRoad School today, he would have to swap his slate and chalk for a computer and other modern technology.
make these. Have you got a bit of chalk? Anywhere?
I've got a bit in the pocket.
I just thought about it. Thank you. All right, Mr. Lloyd, we've got a bit. If he's gone to fetch it.